1. Had a funny one recently on my 7 to 7 audit shift. Thank you, staffing issues. I had this nice guest come to the desk around 9 p.m. He had forgotten his key. Asked for ID, presented without issue, and got him a new one. He then asks for a 3 a.m. wake-up call. "Early riser, huh?" I asked with a chuckle. He responded, "Nah, I got an early flight." He left, made him his wake-up call, and that was it. Fast forward to approximately 3:45 a.m., the front door intercom buzzer goes off. Looking at the camera, in this property the front door isn't visible from the front desk, so after hours it's locked. I don't see the usual homeless looking to get in. I see a dude in a suit, a nice black Mercedes behind him. I let him in, and he comes to the desk. He is looking for the guest from earlier, as he is his ride to the airport. I attempt to call the room. The driver is calling the guest's personal cell. No answer on either. Driver gives up about 4 and hands me a card with a number on it, asking me to give it to the late guest if he arrives at any point soon. Fast forward to about 5:10 a.m. Guess who is stumbling to the elevator? I greet him, mention his ride had been and left, and handed him the card. Guest phones. In luck, there's another driver about 5 minutes away. Now comes the fun, as I get to hear about how incompetent I am for not waking him up, how it's poor service, how he will contact my manager and leave a bad review. I finally was able to get a word in as I asked, "Sir, in addition to the automated wake-up call, both myself and the driver attempted to call you multiple times on both your room and cell phone. Not sure what else we could have done." His answer, "You could have come into the room and shook me awake." I'm sure he picked up on the WTF look that I had. Only reason we enter the rooms is in an emergency, or to harvest the sweet, valuable organs of a problem guest. Anyway, my response to that was, "I am not your mother. There's an alarm clock beside your bed, and your cell likely has an alarm as well. We did all we could at our end." I was spared the reply as his replacement driver arrived, and he ran for the door, all the while telling me my manager would hear about it. The karma in the whole affair. He left about 5:20 a.m. The airport is 40 minutes away in good traffic, which the morning commuter rush is not. If he is flying back to the city on his registration, then there was one flight leaving that morning at 6:45 a.m. He was looking at a good hour plus to get to the airport, and less than half an hour to check his bag, clear security, and get to his gate. Godspeed. I hope you let my manager know if you made the flight. 2. I am sick and had to call into work tonight, so I'm in the mood to rehash some old work-related trauma. So here is the story of the biggest mistake I have ever made, how I handled it, and how it happened. I started working about 3 months ago. This story comes from my 3rd week. The property I work at was very understaffed at the time, so I was alone for the PM shift, peak season, after my 1st week. I constantly expressed how I was not ready for this and was making tons of small mistakes. Nobody seemed to care, until this night. This night was not like any other night. It was my first completely sold-out night. It is a warm summer weekend at a property located near a festival venue that has housed a lot of festival staff. The festival venue did not have their shit together. My GM was off at this point, so I was one of the concierge calls, with a fairly large music corporation trying to fix their mistakes. On my 3rd week, this was all while trying to do my normal FDA duties and deal with the aftermath of 2 housekeepers quitting that very morning. I was frazzled, to say the least. I was ready to walk off the job. Funnily enough, the festival was the bulk of our arrivals, but my mistake did not come from any of them. It came from a guy named Tim Hubbard. Around 9 p.m., a man walks in and says he has a reservation for Hubbard, or what I thought was Hubbard. I reply, "Tim Hubbard?" "Yes?" I see here in your comments you will be arriving late. You made great time. Yeah, I guess so. I came from... And he started telling me about his whole long day and why he would be late. Normal. Alrighty, let me take a quick peek at your ID, and we will throw your card through my machine. Frazzled me took the quickest peek and obviously missed something huge. He was not Tim Hubbard. I check him in, he heads up to his room exhausted. About an hour later, Tim Hubbard comes in. He had his ID ready and told me his last name. My heart dropped. I told him, "Didn't you already check in?" "Nope." "No, because I did. Someone's in your room right now." At this point, I have no arrivals. Tim Hubbard was my last check-in. I am confused. Someone with no reservation came in, checked under a last name that I swore was Hubbard, and now I have no rooms for the real Hubbard. Mortified, I apologized profusely, explained exactly what happened, that I fucked up real bad. Tim Hubbard is the nicest man alive, and is the reason I did not quit after that night. He looked at me and said, "Thank you for taking accountability. Please just tell me, will I have a room tomorrow night?" I assure him he will have a room tomorrow, and he smiles and says, "Good. Now let's figure out where I am sleeping tonight, and everything will be fine." I immediately find him a room at a nice hotel, and he's on his way. I got off work shortly after, but he did call when he got to his hotel. He told our night audit, "I want the girl to know everything is okay and make sure she doesn't beat herself up about it. Shit happens." He asked her when her manager comes in, and called her in the morning to make sure that I did not get in too much trouble, and that he was impressed by my ability to admit to wrongdoing and fixing the situation. Nice man. The next day, after the night of panic attacks and the thought that I was for sure getting fired, I show up early in preparation for the discussion I knew was coming. My general manager said, "I read your note. I know what happened." I apologized and admit that I messed up. She apologized too and said, "I would not have been able to handle that night alone, and I have been here for 10 plus years." She scheduled someone with me to help me with the bulk of my arrivals for the next few weeks after this. Tim Hubbard, the real one, ended up checking in that night. He made a joke. "You didn't give my room to someone else again, did you?" I assured him I would never forget his face, and he laughed and gave me some wise life advice and lots of reassurance. He even offered to buy me a beer after work since he was playing a small gig in town. Nice man. Also a funny thing worth mentioning, the man in Tim Hubbard's room called down and said his Wi-Fi was not working. Wi-Fi is last name and room number. The morning shift gave him the spelling for the last name, not knowing the story of last night, and fake Tim Hubbard did not say anything about it being a completely different last name from his own. 3. The night is a regular Thursday night, relatively quiet. I work for a 48-room boutique hotel in the heart of downtown in a smaller city. Our guests are usually corporate folk here on work trips and concert goers, as there are a few venues that surround the hotel. I had a couple come in, seemingly regular, asked for some help with parking, got themselves a luggage cart, and got themselves checked in. As the gentleman is basically running around getting everything dealt with, his wife goes downstairs to the restroom. I would like to note that she was fully dressed with shoes on her feet when she went downstairs. Her husband acts a little concerned and pops down to check on her after he got completely checked in and their luggage in off the street. He comes up and acts as if nothing is happening or wrong. He is a liar. His wife comes up shortly after he did, carrying her shoes and an unknown article of clothing in her hands under her shoes. I smell a small stink. My security guard comes up the stairs behind me and makes a face behind them. Once they've stepped away from the desk, my security guard talks to me.
"Bro, it smells like shit down there."
I look up from the gas folio that was still open. No, you're kidding.
"Oh, you gotta go down and check it out."
So I close out the window, and start making my way downstairs to check out the bathroom situation. Every step down the stairs a stench of eternal hellfire. That woman left was getting worse. I finally made it down the stairs and immediately started gagging. I made it into the bathroom and into the back stall, where I nearly vomited there on the spot. The toilet that I had just used about 2 hours previously was coated in poop. Like this woman had gone and then rubbed it into the toilet seat, under the seat, on the door handles, on the lock to the stall, on the toilet paper roll. I decided to not flush either. So I begrudgingly get it cleaned up, texting my security guard to bring me down some Ozium spray to try and get some of the smell out of the walls. The little old lady and her husband didn't say 2 words about the entire situation to me. Not a word. Acted like it didn't happen. I get back to the desk after stepping outside to hit my vape and question my entire existence up to this point. What had led me here? And what I could do to get away from it. The little old man steps up to the desk and quietly slips me a 20 and thanks me for cleaning up their little accident, but his wife and he couldn't think of any other way to thank me. I just stared him in the eyes deadpan and accepted the tip. I genuinely wasn't sure how to respond. I wanted to be disgusted with him, but I also kind of like having a job. I have to take the trash out of that bathroom later due to me throwing up 3 times during my cleaning up expedition. I am disturbed by human beings today. Back when I worked at a well-known hotel chain, it was during the end of spring towards June. We were expecting a large group of about 16 adults and their children. They were having softball tournaments that week, so they made a group reservation in order to make things cheaper for everyone and easier for everyone. Our management told us to be on our best behavior and alert them to anything regarding this group if we had any issues. The time comes for the group to check in. The check-in process went fairly quickly and easily. Nothing was really happening. The kids were kind of obnoxious, but I've encountered a lot of obnoxious kids who like to run around the lobby while working at hotels, over the years anyway. They all went to their rooms within a few hours and everything was good. Well, so I thought. 8 p.m. rolls around, fairly quickly for my shift, and I'm just sitting at the front desk minding my own business on my phone waiting for guests to check in. All of a sudden I notice that the group I checked in earlier, all of the adults, were getting off the elevator and heading into the breakfast area. I notice beer in their hands, some other alcohol, food, etc., etc. I wasn't sure if they were allowed to drink in the lobby, so I contacted the group chat I was in that my coworkers and management communicated in regularly. I asked, and management was okay with it, as long as they don't act like fools. Well, it quickly turned into a loud party, filled with extremely loud chatter. They began playing music on their speakers, and I tried my best to ignore it, while also apologizing to guests checking in. I felt bad for the people who checked in, especially those coming from late flights, and them just wanting to go to bed, for having to deal with this monstrosity happening in the lobby. My shift quickly ends and the party is still happening, loud music, loud voices. I warn my coworker who is relieving me about the party, and then clock out for the evening. My coworker talks in the group chat throughout the late evening while I am at home, complaining about the party going on. She said it ended at around 3 a.m. and they left all their trash in the lobby for her to pick up, including stuffing the trash can so full with alcohol boxes that it was overflowing. This goes on for the entire week that they were staying there. It was like a routine for them. Come down at 8 p.m., party until 3 a.m., drink beer, play loud music, use their outside voices, and completely destroy the breakfast area. They emptied their ice buckets into the lobby bathroom sinks, completely filling them so you have to deal with ice when you wash your hands. They scattered chairs everywhere and completely rearranged the entire breakfast area most nights. So when I worked night audit, I had to continuously put the furniture back the way it was. I constantly had to empty trash cans and pick up beer boxes and beer cans all over the floor after them, and mop the floors as well because they would also continuously spill beer on the floor in their drunken states. I felt bad for the children having to deal with their parents leaving the hotel rooms and partying until 3 a.m., leaving their kids alone. Luckily, none of them were under the age of 12, so it's not like they were leaving little kids alone. Which, actually, some had siblings, but the adults made the other siblings take care of them while they partied. I remember the adults being rude and obnoxious during this entire experience. They were so incredibly needy. Constantly needing towels, toiletries, other things for their parties like cups and whatnot. I once took a laundry cart and filled it to the top with towels and toiletry bags, just so I didn't have to constantly go back and forth from the lobby room to the front desk during the night, to make it easier on myself. That's how frequently they asked for towels and toiletry supplies. One of the adults of the group also made a certain accusation against the housekeeping staff, claiming that they stole his expensive electronics, and demanded we watch the cameras to see who did it. Lo and behold, it was one of his buddy's children that stole them, and eventually the child gave the stuff back. It was funny though. A lot of them left their doors popped open during their entire stay, unless they were leaving the hotel property. It's like they were begging for their stuff to get stolen either by the group's kids or other patrons of the hotel. What I do not get about this experience is why the management at the hotel did not do something about this. We constantly complained to them, all 3 of my co-workers and myself, but yet they never did anything. It's not like all the adults and their kids were famous or something, or they knew the owner. So I am not sure why we couldn't tell them to stop partying and destroying our lobby. I also do not understand why the management didn't let them party in the conference rooms, which would have allowed for a more quieter experience, especially for guests checking in for the evening. I will never forget this group because of how terrible they were. 5. Please note that while many stories in this series are humorous, the following is intended to illustrate the struggles and the difficulties that people working in hotels have to deal with. If you or a family member are struggling mentally, please seek the help of a professional. I used to work at the front desk of a small 4-star hotel for 2 years, mostly night shifts, alone, so I have a few stories. One time I was working and it was already pretty late, shortly before closing. The hotel closed at midnight, but the night shift worker always slept there in case of an emergency or to let in guests that didn't have a key. A disheveled-looking middle-aged woman came in. Her hair was very knotted. She was wearing one of those housewife indoor dresses and no shoes. She was also from the area, not a tourist. She put a big wad of cash on the counter and asked for a free room. So I checked her in, but she didn't go to her room. She went straight to the bar. Since the hotel was small, we didn't have a barkeeper, so the receptionist was responsible for serving drinks as well. So I gave her drink and she started chatting with me. But the more she drank and talked, the weirder her stories got. She talked about how they put toxic gas in her house to make her compliant, forced her to kneel on hot metal rods, cut open her head and removed part of her brain to take away her ability to sing, stuff like that, and that was apparently the reason she came to the hotel. She had no injuries, so it was clear that she had some mental stuff going on. At that point, it was already around 1 a.m., so I tried politely telling her that the bar was closing, but she put 500 euros in my hand and ordered another drink. I thought for that much money you can keep me up all night if you want, and kept serving her and talking to her. I know in hindsight it was morally wrong to take that much money from someone that was obviously out of it. She then proceeded to keep talking and followed me everywhere, even to the basement to get more drinks. But at around 4 a.m. she went to bed without incident, and I thought that was the end of it, since she was only staying one night. I was wrong. The next day, when I wasn't working, she booked the most expensive room for an entire month. The hotel owner knew about her state of mind, but since she paid it all up front in cash, he didn't care. So for the next 30 days, she constantly kept bothering staff, but she tipped very well, so no one complained. Then her checkout day came. I wasn't working that day, but my coworkers told me what happened. At 10 a.m., mandatory checkout time, she refused to check out because she hadn't packed her stuff. We knew she had brought quite a lot of stuff over the week, so a cleaning lady went up to her room with her to help her. Turns out her room was absolutely trashed. Her stuff and other garbage was everywhere. The phone ripped out of the wall, weird stains, all that good stuff. Then she suddenly had a huge meltdown, started screaming, crying, accusing the cleaning lady of stealing from her, etc., etc. It took my coworkers a long time to finally calm her down, and get her and her stuff out of the room. A coworker of mine actually brought her to a psychiatric hospital after that. I hope she's doing better now. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 98. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Now before you go today, if you could please hit that like button and share the video around with a friend or a family member. Alright, let's see. Let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: things you know are safe that you don't personally trust. Like, I have never bought a silicone baking tray. They're popular, they're not super expensive, and obviously people are using them, but part of me intrinsically doesn't trust it to bake a cake in it. I don't know why. Maybe I'll get over it and just buy one and try it. I do use silicone for like ice cube molds and things, so it's not the idea of it touching food, it's just something about silicone in the oven. Even though I'm sure it's cooking great, I understand that. But no, that little part of my brain just goes, no, buy a metal one. And I'm sure I can't be the only one with little quirks like that, so let me know what you think. Let me know some of your ideas in a comment below. Now with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.